me that most of the folks who are here probably know more about the specific problems of the water system than the EPA does. And maybe a little background would be helpful to you in your decisions. The original disinfecting system that was used in the Timberon water system was an iodination injection system that had been working off and on at the time that I became the trustee in late 1989. It finally died sometime around a year or so ago. And when we began failing the water sample tests, we inquired about repairing or replacing the iodination system, but the New Mexico Environmental Department said iodinators were no longer approved. We couldn't put the iodinator back into service. We did some
closer to your mouth.
We did some batch disinfecting. We hypochlorinated the reservoirs from time to time this past summer when we had an unusually high demand for water. And sometimes during the winter when the runoff would cause some contamination up at the collection box. But as you're aware, that one-shot chlorination of the reservoirs won't provide much of a residual after that water is used up. The EPA, the New Mexico Environment Department first requested and then ordered me to install a chlorinator. It has been estimated that the cost of that's about $2,500, not counting whatever kind of structure Mr. Ellison thinks might be necessary to house it. The old iodinator was housed in the shack that he refers to, and the supply of chemicals was housed there as well. I don't think that chlorine is a whole lot more dangerous than iodine, but I'll let the Water and Sanitation District decide how they want to house it. Bankruptcy court scheduled a hearing when the New Mexico Environmental Department filed a motion to require me to install the chlorinator. And I was ready to install it when the bank objected and said that the funds on hand were subject to the bank's super priority lien and they didn't want the chlorinator installed. The court scheduled a hearing that was continued because of the negotiations with the bank and the Water and Sanitation District seem to be coming closer together. And Mr. Ellison's got more current information than I do, but I'm informed that they're getting close to making a deal. If that happens, the bankruptcy court won't have control anymore over whether or not I can spend the money. The Water and Sanitation District can spend their own money. If it helps you any to know about the financial operations of the district, we have an annual income of about $100,000. Maybe 10% up or 10% down, depending on usage. It's been up a little bit this past year because the golf course finally started paying their water bill. We had to take the former homeowners association to court over an overdue water bill. They finally settled with the bankruptcy estate, gave us a slug of money to settle a delinquent bill, and they have been paying their bill since that time. So maybe this year, depending on usage, we might have revenues of $110,000 or so. It's hard to project the usage. When the New Mexico Public Service Commission granted the rate increase, they weighted it heavily in favor of consumption. That is, they gave me a pretty low base rate for a minimum charge and then a fairly high gallonage. They tripled the gallonage rates that people used to pay. And that lets the water consumer pretty much control his own bill. If he doesn't use a lot of water, he doesn't pay a big bill. But that leaves the system in a problem that we have certain minimum expenses. And if everybody cuts back on their water, we run short again. This morning, I had looked in the checkbook. We had a little over $14,000 in the bank. That represents about a month and a half's worth of operating expenses. I have payroll coming up at the end of this week for Mr. Clark and my building assistants. And I try not to let the bank account balance get below a month's reserves in case there's some kind of emergency problem. Mark Clark had some fairly significant leaks this past spring after the winter thaw, and I anticipate there'll be more of those. Everybody who's sitting in this room is aware of the problems we have with the substandard construction of the original system. I don't have to drink this water, but I think I'm as aware as anybody is over the necessity for safe drinking water. It's simply a function of there's so many dollars to go around, and if a line breaks and we have to dig up a line in order to keep somebody in service, we can use the money to keep people getting water, or we can use money to provide water that meets the EPA standards, but sometimes we can't do both. Particularly when the bank has objected to the New Mexico Environment Department's request that I install a chlorinator. I understand the desire of all of the homeowners here to have ample water and safe water at a reasonable price, but I caution them to be aware that a reasonable price in a mountain subdivision like Timberon is a different number than a reasonable price in an urban environment. The water bills in Timberon, for example, are significantly less per month than the water bills in the town of Rio Rancho, which is a town of 60,000 people with fairly dense population. I have approximately 2.5 meters for every mile of main line that I have to maintain. A city like Rio Rancho probably has 20 or 30 meters per mile of main line, and that's what makes the maintenance cost of Timberon so extraordinary, coupled with the original substandard specifications to which the system was built, and coupled with the fact that my fixed costs are so high that when the rate structure is weighted in favor of consumption, I sometimes just run out of money before there's enough to do all of the necessary maintenance. Mr. Ellison is correct that I haven't spent as much money on maintenance as he would like me to have spent, but I can assure him that the money that has been expended in this case for legal fees is less in total than the money that was lent by the First National Bank. All of the dollars that have been raised from the consumers by virtue of water bills is going back either into operating or maintaining this system, or remains in the bank, has not been used for legal fees. The money that was used for legal fees was lent by the bank.